Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday, August 2nd, Presque City Council meeting. There are 5 out of 7 councilors present today, and if you would all please, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Once again, thank you everyone for coming today. Thank you for those who are watching online. We had our executive session at 5 p.m. today, followed by our PICTA meeting. And so we are going to jump right into the regular agenda. And we will start with the public hearing portion. So this is the portion of our agenda where if you see one of these agenda items that you have a vested interest in and you are part of the city or this affects you in any way, you can come to the city council meeting and speak on these specific agenda items, or you can also send any comments through email. And if you would, Kim, I don't mean to interrupt, but could you give that email for the city, please? Thank you.
K Finnemore, KFINNEMORE @presqueleme.us.
Thank you very much. So the first public hearing today is an approval of application for a malt, spirituous, and vinous license for American Dream Restaurants, LLC, doing business as Pizza Hut, location of 814 North Main Street. And we will start with our city manager.
Council, this is an application that has no opposition from staff. We recommend to council to approve.
All right. Again, this is a public hearing, and we will open that now. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item tonight? Seeing none, did we receive any email comments?
Nope.
Thank you. Seeing no one here for the public hearing, we will go ahead and close the public hearing portion, and I will ask council for a motion or comments.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to motion to approve a malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license and special permit for music, dancing, excuse me, no longer. Malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license for American Dream Restaurants doing business as Pizza Hut with a location of 814 Main Street.
Motion by Kevin. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. Any further discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. We'll move right along to our second public hearing, which is an approval of a malt, spirituous, vinous, and liquor license and special permit for music, dancing, and entertainment for Bethany Graves, doing business as Lotus Lounge with a location of 149 State Street. And we will start this off with the city manager.
So council, this is a renewal. They have been in operation. We are aware that there have been some issues with this business that that they were working through. But right now, recommendation is to approve.
All right. Again, this is a public hearing. You can come here and talk about any of these items. Is there anyone from the public here tonight who would like to speak? Seeing none, did we receive any written or email comments?
No.
Is there any comment from the city council?
Can you clarify what the issues might be?
So there were items that the state received complaints about that were investigated, and believe that they were correcting those things. Minor is smoking in the building. There's been some issues with over-serving also individuals, but the state is working with them on those issues.
Laura, do you have any issues?
No, it's the same as the city manager has said. So I talked to the state today, and they're working through it with Bethany to alleviate that. So I asked him. I told him that was on the agenda, and he said that there should be no issue with that.
There's not any large incidents where there's attorneys involved or suits or that we're aware of?
Not that we're aware of, and frankly, council, if there was some issue, the state would send us notice with a recommendation.
Okay.
So I'm hopeful that they will cooperate and correct those issues. If not, they will let us know. But in the issue we've seen with other establishments that haven't been in compliance, the state takes action and ends up either with a fine or suspending the license. So they'll be the ones to act at that point.
Any more questions for the city council? I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve a malt spirituous and vinous liquor license and special permit for music, dancing, and entertainment for Bethany Graves doing business as Lotus Lounge with a location on 149 State Street.
Second. Motion by Mike and second by Craig. Any further discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. Moving on to number 3, we have an approval of application for a malt spirituous and vinous license for Talk Pizza LLC, doing business as Pat's Pizza of Presque, the location of 9 North Street. Is there anyone from the public here tonight who would like to speak on this issue? Did we receive any written or email comments?
No.
Seeing none, we'll close this portion of the public hearing and ask council for a motion or comments.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move we approve a malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license to Talk Pizza LLC, DBA Pat's Pizza, location on 9 North Street.
There's a motion by Craig. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. Any further discussion? And I will say I neglected to ask Martin, but what was the recommendation from the city?
Staff recommends approval. We've received many comments from the public that are happy to see the name Pat's Pizza back again in Presque.
Thank you. All right, so
I have one question or comment though. A lot of these licenses list sort of the gross revenue for the businesses in different spots. Is there any reason that has to be there, or that it couldn't be redacted for the public? I don't think it's really anyone's business to know what a lot of these businesses do for gross sales.
We can certainly redact it as something that we use internally. I've seen it done both ways in municipalities, but we can certainly redact. Keep
And that's just my thought. I've had a business owner that was not happy that their yearly income was listed there. So that was just something that I've heard. I don't know if others feel the same way.
yeah, I agree. I don't think, as long as it's not pertinent to the renewal for any reason, I don't see any reason we need to.
To backtrack, the previous approval we just did was blank.
Well, it's a new business, so it wouldn't have anything yet.
No, Lotus Lounge was
Oh.
blank on their renewal.
They don't have to submit it for it to do. I guess the only issue for council you get to see, especially for food establishments, is the ratio of liquor to food sales, and where it really would take a pertinent issue is for establishments that open up that do require them to sell food, to make sure that they are selling food when required for a specific liquor license. None of these meet that qualification.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? 5-0. And the last is the approval to amend Chapter 43 Planning Board Ordinance, and we will start with the city manager.
Council, last meeting, the DECD chair executive director did a great job explaining what it is. We can certainly go into, have him come back up to the mic and explain again, but just to review what's in his memo. There's some things that the planning board has identified that is making a recommendation to the council. There's no language in there that allows the planning board to have ad hoc committee meetings. So much like they want to operate, that's in a similar fashion with council. When there's specific items, they want to have a subcommittee that's recognized. They want to have 2 members to be able to do that, to make recommendations. That seems extremely very reasonable. There's no title secretary. They've had a session where they reviewed Robert's Rules of Order and how to operate. Some councilors did attend that. I think that they're trying to establish when there's motions and seconds how that's actually handled, which would be helpful. Due to the fact they review a lot of building permits, that they are acting in a manner where if there is significant outcomes, it's good to know the official order of how to do business. And the majority of members present making clarification for quorum status, parts of that. So again, this comes with a recommendation from the planning board and from staff to approve.
Excellent, thank you. We did hear about this last meeting, so I would just open it to the public to see if anyone would like to comment on this public hearing item. Did we receive any written or email comments?
No.
Is there any comment from the city council? Or questions for our economic director? All right, seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we adopt the changes made to Chapter 43 Planning Board Ordinance.
Uh,
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you. That closes the public hearing portion of our meeting tonight, and we'll move right into citizen comments. Much like the public hearing section of our meeting, you can come here to discuss any issue you'd like with the city council, and we take those verbally here at City Hall during our council meetings, and you can also send them to that same email we listed earlier. Is there anyone here tonight who would like to address the city council? Galen, come on up. Go ahead, state your name, where you live, and
Sure. Galen Weibly, I'm the Director of Economic Development for the City of Presque, but I also serve as the city's liaison for the Downtown Revitalization Committee, which is what has brought me before you today. I wanted to express our gratitude for the Recreation Department as well as the Fire Department for assisting us this summer concert series with stage setup, and as well as the Public Works Department for helping us with the road closure to make it a successful community event. So I just want to express my gratitude and also thank you for your support this year. We just wrapped up the summer concert series, but we always appreciate the City Council's appropriation for this important community event.
thank you very much. Any other comments tonight? Do we receive any written or email comments?
No.
All right.
Well, actually, I'll jump up and.
Please,
do
yeah,
that
go ahead.
there
State
rather
your
than-
name and-
I was gonna do that later, but I'll just do it right now. Craig Green, City Councilor, live on Pine Street. So we have an event coming up on the 17th, and it's actually our last concert of the year, but it is not part of the Downtown Concert Series. So the 17th of August, we have hired the Star City Syndicate to play, and we're closing Main Street between State and Academy for the purpose of the Antique Automobile Association of America Vintage Tour that is coming to Aroostook County over a 3-day period. They're arriving on the 16th, touring the county and the local area, coming back to Presque every day on the 17th, 18th, and 19th. And on the 17th, Thursday night, we will have a downtown party with music right in front of the Northeastland, and so the cars will be there. The cars have to be from 1931 and older, so they'll be between 90 and 110 years old. And we have cars that old scheduled already that are coming. They're from all over the U.S., and that also will involve a partnership with the Presque Arts Group, and they're going to have some art displays and such, food, and some of the merchants in the area. So it should be a great event. It'll start the usual time around 6 p.m. and continue on. And I know the Northeastland is also going to have some open house items because of their new renovations and kind of showing off their facility as well. So hope to see everyone downtown on Thursday the 17th.
Excellent, thank you.
Yes. Who do they talk to?
So the vendors, they should just really contact me, and if they've got any questions, we've kind of got a downtown street plan for them. Yep. So.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any more comments for tonight? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the citizen comment portion of our meeting and move into the consent agenda. Typically, we take these all as one item unless there are a few that would like to be discussed separately. And tonight, we're going to, with the approval of the council, move on items 5 through 7, which are item 5, approve minutes from July 5th, 2023. Approve the 2023 warrants, number 25, number 26, and number 27, totaling $1,855,390.93. And agenda item 7, MMA annual election. Are there any comments, or would any councilors like to take these 3 items separately? And if not, I would entertain a motion.
I'd move that we approve items 5, 6, and 7 on the consent agenda.
Moved by Craig. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. That brings us to agenda item 8, which is to approve a taxi cab service license for Shiretown Solutions. And we will start with the city manager.
So council, this came in after the packet was put together, but it should be in front of you. Recently filled out So on the agenda it says Shiretown Solutions. There it's Detail Solutions, doing business as Town Taxi. So Shiretown Solutions effectively bought Town Taxi as a new operation, new taxi service. I believe they were going to be here tonight, but they have filled out the application. It's a pretty detailed application. They've submitted the drivers. They've talked with the city clerk, and looks like it's going to be a great new service. Part of the things that I think would be appropriate to talk, I haven't had the chance to interact with them, but discuss some of the issues we've had as a city in the past with them, especially the late night service, some of the timeliness issues will be explained to them. But happy that a new service will be coming to town, and they seem to be very excited to be in Presque Isle.
Excellent, thank you. With that being said, I would entertain a motion.
I'd move we approve the taxi cab service license for Shiretown Solutions.
We have a motion by Craig. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mike. Any further discussion?
Oh,
Sorry. All those in favor? And it's unanimous. Thank you. That concludes our consent agenda, and we'll move right along to old business, and we'll start with number 9, a building and facilities update. And we'll start with the city manager to kind of address what we're looking to do here as a city, and then we'll field questions.
So council, there's a handout here. The last council meeting was on the agenda, and what council decided to do was to form a subcommittee to start reviewing this and look at the packet of material which is included in your binder that kind of gives an overview of what other communities have done for facilities department. We looked at different budgets, and we have a job description and for the facilities manager, just to get an overview. Where we left last meeting is really the question of what is the council looking for a facilities person. So that's what the subcommittee was charged with. So after 2 meetings, there in front of you is a budget of what the recommendation is. And I guess at this point I would defer to the 2 councilors that served on that subcommittee.
Craig, would you like to lead the way?
sure. So we had a great committee from staff, department heads, and council, and the city manager, and we discussed the possibilities for this change. The fact is, we have millions of dollars worth of assets in our community, and the fact further remains that when people spend their hard-earned dollars on their taxes and we have these buildings, we need to make sure that we have a long-term plan to keep them up. And the buildings that we have are not 5 and 10 years in life, they're 50 and 100 years. The building we're setting in is a perfect example of that and has now got a new lease on life. But we now need to move to the part of the maintenance of it for long term. And so because of that, the city had an opportunity to work with some changes that had happened in the past because the combination of departments. The rec department was given duties that were really far beyond just what the rec programming part would entail. And so what we have come up with is to utilize much of the current maintenance staff without additional expense to the taxpayer and form them along with another member of the department into a new department for city maintenance and facilities. And by doing that, to have someone focused on all of those items so that every city building will be addressed by this department, as well as the ongoing maintenance and planning for the future. Giving some new software for the city employees so that they can actually make requests. If they have an item that goes wrong, they have someone now to send an email and schedule things so that we can stay on top of all of those items and hopefully not have large building projects like we've had in the last few years to bring things back from a state of disrepair but rather keep them in good repair over long term. And I think we have a good example of that in our school system and other large entities that routinely do that, and especially major businesses in our area certainly do that. So I think we owe that to the taxpayer. So with that, there's also going to be the recommendation of a couple new positions, one helping with the scheduling of those duties as well as public scheduling of events at the forum, and to present and propose and to encourage more events at that facility to help not only increase the revenues there, but give more opportunity to the citizens for activities. So that is part of it. We also recommended that additional staffing be placed with the rec department to help them with their duties in the coming budget as well. So with all of these changes, we're hoping that this is going to move us in a great direction by recentering some of the current staff and giving them some new directions. And
And I will say, just to add to that, so if you look at the handout in front of us, if you look all the way at the top, it says Scenario 5, and you can see the positions we're looking to add and the associated proposed salaries for those positions. We met, as Craig mentioned, twice over the last month to get this proposal in front of you today, so that way you could take it back, read through the memo that Craig has provided for us, and look at this handout, and then you can come to anyone on the working group or us directly with questions, suggestions, and this is our formal proposal, but we definitely are open to any suggestions that any counselor has, or changes that anyone thinks might benefit this position.
I guess, Council, I might add, when we started this discussion, where I was looking at this from, it was a council goal. It's been on the council goal for a long time, and I just want to make sure, and what the committee was helping with the direction. And the two options I saw before the committee met is either we start this, as we saw with some examples, with just one person, and we all agreed that there's limitations just starting with one person, and the challenge was with breaking apart the department, that there's obviously going to be some growing pains associated with that, and we're going to have to figure that out. So some of these changes, we're going to have to, the correct term in city government is muddle through, figure it out. But I just want to make council aware of, these changes obviously are going to have an impact in the budget, and so if council approves, what I would do with the finance director is make these changes to the draft proposal for the 2024 budget.
That being said, do any counselors have any questions for tonight?
I'll start with some comments. As long as I've been around, we've had this proposal either on the sheet or somewhere below a laundry list of other priorities, and I for one am really glad to see this get kicked over the goal line. I think that as the city, everybody knows, beginning with the building of the rec center, the remodel here at this building, the 7 years or 9 years ago was the Public Works facility remodel. We've got a probable new airport terminal coming. We've got a lot of things that our department chiefs and heads have done a reasonable yeoman's job trying to manage their everyday work, and also walk down to the boiler room and see if the maintenance has been done for the year, or if the sidewalk should get patched up in front of the building, or if the ceiling tiles need to be replaced. And I've always admired that teamwork and attitude from our department heads, but I don't think it's reasonable to have those people. I'll cite the public safety people. We have a fire and ambulance system, and we coexist in the same building with the police department. And I don't think it's right for those two chiefs or heads of those departments to be giving us a proposal on a CIP when the roof should be replaced. That's not their bailiwick. They're trained to be law enforcement and public safety people. They shouldn't have that responsibility. So if they don't do it, who will? That's what this is addressing. This facilities management position and the small staff of existing people reallocated to this department is the right way to go for a town of this size with this much in physical assets, both that are new now and being built in the future. I think we'll have a much better opportunity to keep our buildings looking right, our people comfortable in the buildings. I don't think that future councils will be struck with sudden changes in a need all of a sudden that pops up. Oh, geez, if we'd have known this 3 years ago, we'd have done it then, but now it's going to cost us a lot more money now. I think you've got an opportunity to stabilize your yearly CIP budgets, and so I'm really happy to see this, and I appreciate Councillor Green and Councillor Shaw's work on this, because it's not been easy to kind of invent something. However, we've got, thanks to some comparisons, we've got comparisons from Brewer, Old Town, Orono, Caribou, Skowhegan, Calais. So like communities, again, that have gone through this process and have as recently as 2017 have been implemented in certain towns, because it's expensive to build everywhere and everybody's got to hold on to these assets and maintain them correctly. So we're not reinventing the wheel that nobody else in Maine's doing, but I'm glad to see again that after many years of consulting and prodding that we are getting this kicked over the finish line. Nice job, guys. Thank you.
Any more comments or questions from councillors? All right, seeing none, please, take this information home, digest it, send us any questions you may have or suggestions you may have that you would like to see in this position, and we will definitely take that back to the working group. That being said, we will move on to the next agenda item tonight, number 10, which is the employee handbook, and we will start with the city manager.
Council, just for a reminder, this was presented last month, tabled. We had a lengthy agenda last month. I put, first page is, I did a bullet detail to help the council understand what these changes are. A lot of this is, as I said last month, was grammatical issues and formatting issues. That was probably a good 50% of it. Some of the important things, the reason why we really started taking a look at this is it's still listed deputy city manager in a lot of the positions rather than HR director. That's the person that does a lot of these steps. The hiring process, we realized that we need to be quick to react when people apply. The old policy listed 25 steps. That's too many to effectively hire someone, so we reduced that to make it a quicker process. The other things are smoking policy has changed at the state and federal level, that we've made those changes in the document. The health insurance, sick leave policy, we also updated those too. More than happy to answer any questions on this, on any of the modifications. I did do the strike-through format and redlined what these changes are. As you can see, going through, a lot of it is red from the formatting changes.
Martin, is there a drop-dead deadline on this? Are we up against a date that we've got to deal with this by a certain date, or is this just ongoing?
This is ongoing. One of the things is when we review policies, we realized it's been a while since this was updated. Looking back at this was last adopted in 1996. There have been changes, I believe, back in 2013. So it's been a while since we've been reviewing this. So this is one of the policies that, when we renew the ordinances, this was one that we realized needs some changes. So we finally tackled it. So it can definitely be something that you want to review again. no issue if we have to table again, we can
The
certainly
o-
look
Yeah,
at it
the
next
only,
month.
the only reason why I'd ask the council to consider tabling it is there's 45 pages of stuff here, and honestly, I haven't had a chance to go through it. But- So I'd like another
I
kick
mean,
at the can.
I guess respectfully, that's why we tabled it last month.
Well, the,
And I wasn't there.
yeah, well, the only
Okay.
thing, that I wanna bring up too, and I don't mind us tabling it, is, we discussed some items earlier about, hiring processes and positions and such, and we kinda were thinking about, with our, of course, with our new department and some other things, that we're discussing, and about how that might affect those things, especially with that hiring process you're talking about. That, I guess after I was sitting there thinking about this and the changes, that maybe that's part of, some of those questions that kind of popped into my head at the last minute, saying, all right, with the changes we've made here, did we adequately address doing some of those things so we could do those things? So anyway, I guess, I didn't have those questions till about an hour ago, now I do, and I don't know how they really, and I guess probably right now isn't the time to discuss those things, cause they're kinda more privately specific to other things. So I wouldn't mind having time for us to discuss that.
Any other comments on this agenda item tonight? That being said, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to table this item until the next city council meeting.
Motion to table,
I second that.
second by Craig, and the item is tabled until our next meeting. All those in favor? Opposed? And 4-1. Moving on, we will go to agenda item 11, which is our charter amendments. We will once again start with our city manager.
Alright, so we have a theme here for this past couple items. This was brought up last meeting. We have a timeline. If we want to make changes to the charter, which again, it wasn't on the goal setting session, but it's something that we've talked as a group about through various periods of time, that there's certain things in the charter that we've identified as issues. And probably the one that impacts us the most is the inability for us to do Zoom meetings. The city charter forbids us from anything other than in-person votes. There's no proxy votes, there's no votes by telephone. It says it must be in person. So that is one thing that I think that the public would be able to understand that we need to change for this day and age. There is the difference between an amendment and a revision. So that's something that whatever changes we make, we do need to run by our legal counsel to make sure if it's an amendment, if it's not a serious issue that we're looking to change, we can put it on the ballot in November. And to do that, we need to have these changes be ready to be voted upon the next council meeting in September. So that's kind of our deadline of where we're looking for here.
Okay.
If it's a revision, then what we have to do is in November have a charter commission, and those are elected positions, and that would be any type of serious revisions would have to be run through a charter commission. All these are dictated by state statute, not in our charter. So the things I've collected over the past couple years, the first one I talked about, remote meetings. The second one is a rainy day fund. The third one is to change the warden and warden clerk positions from elected to appointed. A process to determine tied elections. This has popped up when we've had school board elections. The problem being, just like with the warden and warden clerk, is the council or any other body does not have an ability to determine what happens with a tie. So what we have to do is spend a few $1,000s and have elections for the entire day. So it's an expensive process to establish a tie, especially if someone does not want to take that position and has decided, one person has decided to take it, the other person has not. We don't get to say, okay, it's a tie, but one person doesn't want to take that position. We don't have any ability there. So we should, I think in that position, we should, if someone backs out because of write-in position, and that's what we've seen. We had 2 write-ins, they both received the same amount of votes. One person wants it, one person doesn't. It's common sense, the person that wants that position should be able to do it, not hold a whole nother election if it's write-in. There's vacancy in forfeiture of office that we've discussed. And one that was brought up at the last meeting was changing the title of a chairperson to a mayor. It was brought up also. And I guess that's where I wanted to lead this discussion, and ready to take comments from the council, things to look forward to put in front of you in September.
So we did get an email that kind of addressed some of these changes, and I'd like council to have an opportunity to comment on anything they'd like to see. Would anyone like to start?
I think remote meetings is important. Probably with the technology in here, Zoom or call-in should be fine.
Everyone
Excellent.
agrees they'd like to see that language next time?
Yeah, I think several councils already around the state are doing that now. I've witnessed some Zoom meetings that are public meetings, and 2 councilors are on the remote and their votes counted. So right now, we don't have a mechanism to do that. We have 2 gentlemen that are not here tonight. One is out of state, but if he had the opportunity to Zoom in, he probably would be on and participating. So I think the flexibility, you can't, what happens if we have another pandemic and we can't do it in person? Do we all of a sudden stop our normal flow of business? I think it'd be prudent to put a mechanism together so that we can meet virtually. It's happening more and more often at Augusta now, especially with committee meetings. So we should try to find a way to do that. That's going to be a major amendment, I believe. So we definitely are going to have that on a ballot.
I think reducing the number of people that have to sign papers to be a city councillor makes sense. I know I don't really like having to get out there and ask for signatures, and 75 is a lot of work.
So when I phrased or when I ran for the State House last year, I was actually did not know how many signatures until you get into the process, and it only took 50 signatures to be on a state ballot, whereas to be a city councillor you're required to be 75. So it looked to me like we're asking people to go through more hoops, more work. We want qualified people on this group, no question. I mean, I'm not going to be here forever. None of us are. We want good people in the future, but I don't think reducing it by 30% is going to mean we get less quality people. And hopefully the opposite will happen. We've had very few people pull papers in the past, and I'd like to take the opportunity to note that papers can be pulled right now. As of July 31st, we have 2 seats up for election this year, and possibly people may re-elect as well, but
Yeah, y'all can be replacing me.
so if someone is watching this tonight and they have an interest in being a city councillor in the future or be on the ballot this November, right now it's 75 signatures. You're going to have 75, but the papers are available at Kim Finnemore's office right now, and they have to be back to Kim by September 8th. So just want to punch that up.
Going back to the in-person voting, just to clarify on that, we're looking, you would still have to vote at that exact present time.
Correct.
It's not like Gary could say, hey, this one I'm gonna vote on this, but I'm not gonna be on the call type of thing.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't allow by proxy. And the reason why
Well, I think that's good.
the reason why we were allowed to do it before is that there was the emergency order that allowed us to do that, to have Zoom meetings, but when that emergency order evaporated, so did our ability.
Any other comments on these charter amendments?
Well, I think the tie election thing that we've seen with the school board, I mean, that's cost the community thousands of dollars because we can't act upon that. So I think that would be a great one. And again, the warden and ward clerk, again, are not necessarily popular items, and then an appointment of them would be much easier, I think, and then you, again, would avoid special elections for that, so I agree with that. I also agree with the overlay and the rainy day fund items. Presque is unique in our position of how the charter makes us set aside money for a rainy day fund. That fund has to be voted on by the entirety of the council in order to access the money in the fund. It is not just a surplus fund, which we also have in our budget and we use routinely for different items. And that amount that needs to be put away into that fund is a moving target because it's a percentage of budget, and as our budget grows, so does that, which means that you increasingly have to put more and more and more away, and so some flexibility on that with the council can be a financial tool for us because we already have a significant amount set aside. So I think that's also a very good point of discussion for us to do that.
Just to get some details on
yeah.
that, when I write that up for September, for some guidance, would you, the finance director put together an amount of where we are right now, and like Councilor Green said, it is a moving target based on what as the state valuation increases, so does the cap.
Right.
Would you want to cap that at where it is right now? Would that be something that the council would like to see in front of them, to cap it where it currently is?
You're looking for a flat dollar amount,
That's what I'm wondering, if
A
that's...
ceiling, if you will.
but in a dollar amount.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good idea.
I would be against changing it, just looking at what's happened like down in Montpelier, Vermont, or Barrie, Vermont. I think it's important for us to have a few $1 million to get our community out of a bind if Mother Nature does something terrible. So
In the I mean, there's always going to be inflation, so you're never going to have. I think a percentage is the best method for that.
and if
I
the
guess-
community grows, you need to have more, right? Because there's
Right.
more stuff that could go wrong.
What can you forgive me? But what are we? This 0.5%, is that what we're attaining, or we're well above that?
That's the goal. Once we get to that point, then we don't have to put any more money towards it. So that 0.05, what it equates to now is roughly $3 million, and we're 2.8 million, I believe, Brad.
Yeah, just projected for the end of the year is just over 2.8.
Have
So
we ever-
we're close, and each year we put aside roughly $100,000 towards that. And so theoretically, we're so close at this point. Probably, if our state valuation stays the same, then theoretically we should be there in 3 more years. So it may not be a point, but the comments I heard is in the past, which I agree with, is we've been through tough times where it has been raining, and we're still putting into the fund, but it takes unanimous vote of the council not to put into the fund or to take out of the fund, and it's hard to get 7 votes to agree to that. So.
To my knowledge, we've never used the fund in all the years that this has been, and I'm not saying it's not important to have the fund, but I guess my point is that every one of our facilities is insured. You know, in the case of a catastrophic event in the community, that's, you know, in those areas like Vermont, they have mountains, they have very significant differences than we do. So, you know, we aren't in that jeopardy.
It rains here though.
Well, it does, but I don't think we're gonna have
Yeah, but there's
landslides and floods.
issues that are not insured. More so, like, maybe this isn't appropriate, but I'm thinking like the diminishing like sewer drains and mains and things like that. So the 7 out of 7 vote, who set that?
That's in
Uh,
the charter.
That's in the charter, so that
That's
was
not a-
1990, that was the 1993 revision.
That's not a state thing or anything like that.
No, that's our,
Set your own rules for governance.
In changing the percentage, that is a city thing. There's no grants or matching funds or anything that could be tied to that through any agency, saying, you're not at this, you're not getting matching funds, or
no, the only entity that would come and talk to us about what the emergency fund should be would be through the auditor through governmental accounting standards. And we've heard from him regularly that we're healthy, we're in a good amount, and he even argued that we should be investing at this point, if you remember. So there's no state rules about what's recommended in a rainy day fund. They only say fund balance. You know, the guidance I've always heard is 3 months operating is what you should put in that, but that's not the rainy day fund. That's what you should have in your reserve accounts and for operating, but not for rainy day. So there's no state statutes or any tie. Presque Isles is unique, and the other communities I've had have not had. They've had minimum fund balance standards, but not rainy day standards. It's completely unique to Presque Isle.
so should there be a 7-7 vote and you vote to use 500 grand and it drops your percentage down, you're obviously using that for a major reason. So then is there some sort of waiver that says, okay, you don't need to add to it to get back to that 0.5% by the end of the year?
No.
Because
No,
that,
you'd fund it over the following successive years. You'd put the money back in the account
but they
at
couldn't,
at a 0.5 basis.
right, but no one could come back and say, look, for year 2025, you didn't reach this 0.5%.
No.
Well,
We
you'd
don't
be
need to
in vi-
put
well, you
language
would
in
be in
there.
violation of the charter, and so there would be a legal case for the public to say, you're in violation of the charter, you need to do this. I mean, they could bring
I mean,
legal
if there's some sort of
proceedings.
language in there that says if there is a vote to use it, that in that same year, you're not required to hit that percentage. I mean, that, just to be above board.
Well, there isn't, but I guess the thing is, it's like saying, we're gonna put this money aside, you can use it, but then you gotta fund it right back. That's how it's written now.
Or
And,
put that you do it over the next 3 years, like it suggested or something.
Right, there's no language that says how long you have to do, but it does say
but what
you
if
need
you
to
use the
fund
whole
it
3
until
million,
it's
you're
up
gonna
to that.
fund $1 million a year for 3 years?
Well, you better make sure it's for a damn good thing.
You know, so,
I think
So-
one of the things is right now is I think Brad just mentioned that we're around a little over 2.8 right now. Within 2 or 3 years, we're going to be at the ceiling. We're going to be at the max cap. And so, do we want, while we're looking at a charter revision, do we want to live with that $3 million deal, or do we want to say? I just asked him to look at the last 5 years, the most recent 5 years, and our average in this account is 2.6. So that's $400,000 worth of money that can be used in other budgets or other things or whatever. If there's some sort of a ceiling placed at it, and I thought what we've done the last 5 years has been comfortable. You make a good point about the inflation. You know what the cost of things are going to be in the future. But we've got a pretty healthy cushion right there
but
at
it's
2.8
also,
currently.
it's also invested and earning interest every year as well. So it's not like even if you capped it, that it's gonna be stagnant. It's not. It's gonna
Right, and I'm
continue to
told that we're earning almost 70,000 on that right now this year to date.
Could we, or have we polled other towns in the state? I wouldn't mind
We did
seeing,
once.
10 other towns to see.
Ba-
I know there's some other probably local towns that have $0 in their rainy day fund right now. But to get an average, maybe we're way off.
Well, based on the auditor's comments in the last 2 years, we're in he calls it a healthy position.
That's
And
right.
he leaves it at that.
He leaves it at that, but
But I think when we looked at it before, when we asked, how do you have this specific legislated in the charter fund? We're in the minority in the state. I wanted to take a wild guess. There was 10 communities in the state that had this. It's very few. This
That's
is
in the charter at all.
that they do not have
They don't
this
have a
at
provision
all.
for it.
They just don't have a fund
They don't
like
have
that.
this.
It's
No,
more in a surplus, or
in surplus.
Yep.
Correct.
So I guess what is the difference?
this takes 7 votes, and we've never used it.
And surplus is,
Majority.
Majority.
Just
Majority
four.
votes.
4 votes out of 7.
is there another term for like a 5 out of 7 or something like that?
Super majority.
That's 5 out of 7?
Yeah.
I mean, I think
I'm not
seven,
saying we shouldn't have, or spend the money, or do anything with the money. I can't keep the money, but I guess my point is that it's a very unique item that is extremely unusual within the state.
okay, so there wouldn't even really be other cities to poll so much.
Not many. Not
And
when we. It's been a few years since we did it. When we
It's-
asked about it.
It has been. I do remember it was in 2013 when completely different council did vote because we've had excessive amount of snow, and we used a certain amount of funds to offset that, where it was enough to classify what the council thought at that time as an emergency, and it might have been even before my time. It
I don't
was
think we
before
did.
my time.
Well, I was on the council. I don't think we
2010?
actually took it out of that. account, though.
2008 was a really bad snow year.
2008. So there was some. I did see some language when it was voted upon way back then, but that was the last.
And I think we
time.
didn't fund it a few years, when Jim was manager. I think, I could be wrong.
I think it was when it was unanimous, seven votes.
I mean, should we keep it, which, I mean, I don't know that we wanna have that talk of getting away with it right now. I think it's,
That's not on the table. We're not
right,
talking about deleting it.
well, some were suggesting that we're minority in that, but I would only keep a percentage, just for the fact of the constant changing, and I'd be open to changing the vote to like a 5 out of 7. 7 out of 7 is kind of extreme. You could have just one person that is just trying to ruin the world type of thing and votes against everything.
So, just to kind of bring the conversation to a head, so we have some direction for the city manager, maybe we just go down the line. I'd like to hear, final thoughts on item number 3, and then we'll circle back, and just a quick, yay or nay on the other items, so that way we know, what can be written up for next meeting, for proposals. So let's start with, number 3 specifically, which is the overlay. And the changes we'd like to see with that one. And Doug, we'll go ahead and start with you, if you don't mind.
Like I just said, I would be in favor of reducing it down to a 5 out of 7. I think that's more reasonable. As for the 0.5%, I'm fine with keeping that. As I said, should we change it, I think it strongly needs to stay as a percentage.
Thank you. Kevin?
I think that in the last 5 years, our average has been 2.6 million, and that we, for the foreseeable future anyway, I mean, we're talking about charter revisions that haven't been done since the mid-1990s, I think, here. So, I would be in favor of the 0.5 until it got to 2.6 million, and I would cap it at that, currently. Because I think that it gives us an opportunity to possibly use funds in other ways, and not just sticking it in a drawer that we really can't touch.
Thank you. I would agree that I think having a solid cap would be nice. You know, I know I had been in favor of this idea over the years, mainly because reducing that tax burden for money that we never seem to touch spoke to me anyway, and I'd like to see us get rid of the percentage and go with a hard cap. Mike?
I think it should stay at a percentage of the 0.5. I don't think a hard cap makes sense, because we haven't looked at this for 30 years, and 30 years from now, the hard cap we set today is not going to be near enough. And I think it should be 7 out of 7, because it's an emergency fund, and if it's bad enough, the whole council will vote for it. So I'd say leave it alone.
And Craig?
I'd go for a solid cap, and I'd remove the percentage, and I would legislate that the interest stays in the account and that it continues to build. But I think I'd set the cap at 3 million, because I think that's where we're almost there.
And do you have any thoughts on,
And I had one other question to ask Brad. Brad, what, other than this 2.8, what do we have for reserves otherwise?
To use.
This surplus in the city right now?
That you could use, off the top of my head, about 2.5 to 3 million.
Extra, yeah, plus this. Yeah, okay.
and do you have any thoughts on the unanimous vote?
Well, I don't mind the idea of a supermajority, and the only reason I say that is that, we did bring this up once during my tenure, and we said, well, geez, we've got $3 million, or whatever it was, $2 million at the time. We took the money out of that. We didn't ever use it, because we already had the money elsewhere, and it was in regards to snow that year too. So, you know, I guess it's one of those things that, you know, it depends on your theory. I mean, is it at the end result, when you spent all your other money, you still have this? Or do you use it so you don't spend your other money down? So I guess, you know, there's so many different ways you could look at it.
So to clarify, to use your surplus, it's just a regular 407?
Correct, yeah.
Right.
In that, there's no requirements of what that can be used for or can't be compared to the rainy day fund? Okay, well,
That's right.
I'll backtrack on the 507 then. It should stay at 707, because as Craig said, you would think that you have used all of your surplus first, and you would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
So if the council's willing, I'd like to propose that maybe we table item 3, mainly in the spirit that we are missing 2 councilors today. And if we need 7 out of 7 to take out of it, maybe we should have a whole council here to discuss what we want to do with it.
Like 7?
Like 7, yeah. So other than that, we can, Martin, do you feel like you have the information to maybe put a few proposals together
I do.
for the overlay?
That's helpful, thank you.
And then, since we do need, do we need the 7 out of 7 vote to change the charter as well, or is that just a simple majority?
A simple majority.
So,
That's gotta be approved by the voters.
correct. So, I think we should go item by item, so that way we know, it looks like we have to initiate these orders one at a time. Or maybe it'd just be faster. Go down the line, let us know if you have any other objections to these changes, and if not, then we will ask Martin to prepare the orders and the public hearing for our next meeting.
The only other thing I would say is on item 5 there, and I don't know if this is as heavy a issue as it was 2 years ago. It was brought out that the county may go to a different fiscal year. Our charter says we are fiscal year January to December. So, we at the time, 2 years ago, we were saying perhaps Presque should join what the county's doing and move the fiscal period from current, oh, wait a minute, we can't do that because that's a charter thing. Here we are tonight talking about charter things.
Does the charter need to spell out when the budget is? Is there a benefit to that? Or a reason for it?
Really not a reason for it.
So do you want to strike it then? You want to take it out so that it can be more flexible?
What would be the process of changing it otherwise?
Just, well, you would possibly propose that the fiscal year start April 1st and go till March 31st, which is what I think the county wants to do. They're not advocating, they haven't asked us, but at some point they're gonna, for whatever reason, I think they're gonna move this.
Yes.
So
yeah.
we would be remiss to, ignore that. If we're addressing other items on the charter, we could do this at the same time.
Yeah, I think they're doing July to June, but I guess
Whatever it is.
if the council wants, we could effectively strike that language from the charter so it would revert to the city council. So if we want to propose language to remove that from the charter, we could do that and leave it up to the council to decide.
Does that fit your thing, Brad? I know you work for us, but do you see any pitfalls one way or the other?
Other than the
I'd
transition year,
rather have January to December.
yeah, I do too. I like it the way it is too, but
It actually gives us an advantage, you know, kind of like we are, you know, this last month in setting the tax commitment, having a half a year under our belt, saying, okay, you know, revenue, revenue sharing is higher than projected. Let's use some of that to lower the rate. But it is a big advantage. And there's other factors too, but January, December would be my recommendation.
so just because the county moved to a different format, that doesn't necessarily mean we have to do the same thing.
Not at all, and
We've been different than the school, right, for years?
correct.
Yeah.
I'll say maybe just on that item, it might give us more flexibility if we do strike that from the charter. We can still keep our, you know, the fiscal year that's proposed by city staff, and that would be preferred by the council. If they're ever, for some reason, needed to change, you know, it would give us the flexibility to do that. So,
I mean, it doesn't really matter to me. I guess I question why was it put in there to begin with.
It is in there though, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And I think it is to what Brad's saying is that the state operates on, you know, that June, July time period. So the benefit is we know 6 months of what the funding is. So instead of budgeting and the state makes changes and we need to be on their same schedule, we'd have to act quickly if they made some drastic move. This way we get the benefit of 6 months of that change, so we have the flexibility that way by not having it the same. Same thing with the school. We know 6 months of what their budget's going to be before they make changes, so we can react to it or be proactive to it.
So if we did strike the language, could we replace it with language saying at the first council meeting in January that the fiscal period be established at that first meeting?
Boy, the only problem I worry about that is you're going back and forth. So if we do make a change, then that means either sending out taxpayers an 18-month tax bill or a 6-month and a 12-month tax bill. So it's a major change financially for the taxpayers for whenever that change is made. So rather than leave it up to the council to one council may think this way, that way, it does have a large impact of 1.5 times their tax bill if we make that change. So I think either which way we should put it in there and have it set. So have the voters decide what method they would want to do rather than having council change and having that major impact.
Just leave it alone then.
Well, I guess I would tell you to leave it alone, and the reason I would say leave it alone is we're not any more special in a future council. If they want to tackle this for a good reason and they have a really cogent reason to make a difference, they could change it then. And otherwise, why open Pandora's box for something that really has no purpose at this point?
Especially when we've said that it currently is benefiting us.
Mm-hmm.
all right. So just to recap, we're going to, sounds like we're all in agreement to strike 5 from the list of adjustments. And we're going to table 3 so we can get some proposals in front of us and allow the other 2 counselors to weigh in. And then just real quick, if you'd go down the line and just let me know if there are any you would like to strike or change. And if not, then we'll have Martin do up those proposals. Doug, do you have any other further changes?
Makes sense.
Sounds good.
Doug, do you have any further changes or? And we will, you know, just remember this is discussion. We do have a public hearing next meeting. So if you did come up with suggestions or changes, we can definitely solicit those throughout the month, and you'll have your chance to weigh in at the meeting as well.
For number 2, are there any that, being a devil's advocate, that you would want to exclude options?
That's a great question.
Like audio versus you gotta have audio and video to prove you're not a shyster and mimicking with AI.
Well, the system would have to have an invitation sent out, so you'd have a password and an ID. So that's only gonna go on out to the end receiver. So if that goes in, the thing about the visual is sometimes your Wi-Fi service just it won't go, and you actually come in on the phone line. And the phone will give you
Yeah.
audio, but it won't give you video. So that's been my experience with Zoom meetings. Sometimes you're in a place, maybe you're in a vehicle. You're not, it's hard, you can listen in on the meeting, and when the time comes to vote, you can vote audio, but you may not have the video running. And that's happened to me. So I wouldn't necessitate that a Zoom meeting has to have both. Because you can prove the the person's ID by the ID and the password.
And maybe we can add to number 2 to address some of those concerns is if we do adopt this charter amendment and it goes to the voters and they pass it, then we need to develop some rules of engagement for online meetings versus in-person meetings, and what the council at that time, if it comes, feels should be the rules and how we operate.
Develop a policy.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, any other suggestions, Doug? And Kevin?
I have no other comments, no.
I don't have any either. Mike?
I'm good.
Craig? All right. Then Martin, please draft items 1, 2, 4, 6, and 7 for our next meeting for a public hearing, and we will discuss item 3 again next month.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All right. Moving right along to agenda item 12, we have our tax commitment, and we will start with the city manager.
So council, last meeting, we did do the commitment of taxes. And if you remember, the tax assessor said that there would be some implications of lowering the mill rate to the amount that we did, to 2.6, that it would impact the tax increment financing districts. So we do have a large, we call it a TIF district for short as an acronym. We have one TIF referred to as the BLD TIF associated with Hampton, that's smaller, but we do have one of the largest TIF districts in the state of Maine, the downtown TIF. So when we reduced that amount of the mill rate, we didn't have the calculation of what exactly that would be for such a, it was a substantial drop in our mill rate. Congratulations to the council for lowering the mill rate. When we discovered that it was a substantial amount of the difference, it was around 80, as you can see from the memo from the tax assessor, it was a difference of $88,000 between the tax commitment and the amount that would be in the overlay. And there was there was some personal property that came in after the council meeting that we used to for the commitment. So right now, council has an option. The staff's recommendation is recommending reducing the mill rate, so from 22.6 to 22.4. However, there is an argument that could be made that since we have been discussing the facilities operation, that there's other projects that we could use that valuable issues that we could use that $88,000 to fund that we have identified for the facilities and other items that we know we haven't budgeted for that we could use in this year's budget.
The additional department adjustment, that's for 24?
Some items would be, some movements would be done now, so the staff would be moved now. We would start advertising for some of those positions, but the issue of the custodial and the additional programmer would really be 2024 with an issue. So it would be the admin and moving the staff over, and adjustments to the department head would be the main things that we would see right now for changes.
Right, and so there's that. The other thing that I'd also caution is that we are still just finishing the last items with this project that in the building, and so we still have the front portico and the rest of the back, and there's going to be some change items because of a design with the other far door that's going to necessitate some additional expense on sprinklers and another enclosure. So that was unexpected until a week ago, about.
Correct.
So, so I know we've got that, which was not expected, that's there as well. And,
And contingency, we've already blown through the contingency.
on the building project,
Yeah.
we're slightly over budget, but I don't think we've completely exhausted it, no.
Yeah, it's over.
It's over.
Yeah.
We got the official word from the finance
Okay,
director for
okay,
those at home.
okay, I hadn't had, okay, so, yeah, so, okay, so that answers that. So we have those two things, and then, the other fact of the matter is that in the equipment that we did one-time purchase of, and we used some of our funds, and Mike brought that up earlier, that we did use $1 million of that as a one-time item, so we wouldn't have ongoing payments. But that doesn't mean that we don't need to plan for money set aside for replacing those items in the future. So I guess all I say is that the 22.6 is 1 mil less than last year, so it's still a very, very healthy reduction. But that 88,000, I think, the reality is we've already kind of spent it, or going to, with just even the project that we're in for the building here. So
Well, a few minutes ago, we just discussed how we're very healthy financially, and I don't think we need to keep taxes higher than they need to, so. Or, yeah.
Just from my own personal opinion, I feel like a full mill rate decrease is, a comfortable amount. I know there are concerns from some councillors that we have, changing. It's a constant revolving door of expenses and revenues, and I think we made a good faith effort to reduce the mill rate by a good amount, and I'm happy where it sits. Any other comments from city councillors?
Yeah, I think 22.6 was tremendous drop from last year. Well done by staff and council to put that budget together. The .2 is $35 or $40 to the average property owner. It's nice it looks good on paper. It's really not that big a deal. But it does put us in a position of money basically that's been spent. We've got a lot of things coming up in the future, and I don't want to pin us down to a low enough rate where we've got to take a higher jump later on either. So I think we've got a great track record over the last 5, 7, 8 years. Nice trend there going downward. I don't want to see it bounce. So I think 22.6 is where we should leave it. So I'm not in favor of this proposal tonight.
Alright, I'm not gonna kick it anymore. One last comment was that if we had this information when we voted on the last mill before, and it gave us the overlay, we would have voted for 22.4.
Maybe.
So, I'm voting against it. You guys can do what you want, but.
Any other comments from the council?
I think we went down too far when we went to 22.6, so I don't think we should go further.
Craig, all set?
all set?
All right. So seeing that, do we need, if we set our mill rate at 22.6 last meeting, correct? And so
Correct.
if we don't, if the general consensus of the council, we don't want to change it, then we don't need to take a vote?
That's correct. That's correct. It stays as is.
So I'm getting the feeling, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that we're going to stay at 22.6.
Yep.
All right.
action.
Any further comments from councilors before we move on? Thank you very much. And that concludes our old business. And moving into new business, we're going to go to agenda item 13, which is the Workforce Employer Survey by Maren Moore. And please come on up and let us know about the survey.
evening, council. So when I started my internship, within the first 2 weeks of it, Galen assigned me with a project, and I had the leisure of picking anything that I was passionate about. So I picked workforce development. I saw that as a problem, especially being youth in the workforce. Let me get my slides up. There we go. I sent out a survey to businesses. I started this project in June. I had sent out the survey about the first week of July. I had a lot of positive feedback from businesses, some surprising answers, some you may see that you probably won't be surprised by either. Oh. So this is an illustration for you. I won't read off it. I hope all of you can
You
read
might
what
as
it
well,
is.
because we can't see it.
So this is just an illustration, a synopsis of businesses that I had received feedback from. Fairly good outcome on different industries. Do you want me to read it?
Go ahead, yeah, please.
So 6% was transportation, 19% was agriculture and forestry, 19% manufacturing and skilled trades, 31% nonprofit and education, and 25% service sectors. So the first question I had asked was, are employers, business owners noticing missing skill sets from potential hires? And as you can see, the majority, 75%, said that they were. And then 25% said that they weren't. So if you look at the light bulb, that's supposed to be an illustration for missing skill sets. As you can see, soft skills is the biggest one. And that is a breakdown of communication skills, things such as learning how to send professional emails, learning how to communicate with your supervisors, respect for your supervisor. Another one was legal skills, that there's just not enough qualified people in the area with that. Computer skills was another one. Coming from the younger generation that grew up on technology, I will admit that I struggle with computer skills, like Office Suite. That is one skill that I've been having to learn, and I've noticed people that are around my age, Google is one that they use primarily, but jobs that I've had, Office Suite has been what you've been required to use, so that's been a learning curve. Productivity, staying on task for a long period of time, not using your cell phone, learning, and other things like soft skills that I forgot to mention was learning how to dress appropriately.
And so was this a list of skills that were like on the survey, or how did this go out to business owners when 75% said yes, they're missing those skills? Were those the list of skills that those business owners received, or was it just a general question around?
So the pie graph is one question. So I sent this out in Google Form,
Okay.
so it was easy for me to calculate the percentage. And then I had a blank answer, so you could fill in whatever you wanted. It was optional. Not most businesses filled it in. And I summarized what it was instead of listing you everybody's responses.
Okay.
And the number one was soft skills.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Good input.
The next question was struggling to find workers with enough previous work experience. I thought there'd be more here, but as you can see, the majority once again is yes, that's a problem.
But it's not quite as high as I thought. Yeah, 31% said no. That's surprising.
Do you have it broken down by like sector, as far as which sector thought that they had a pool of employment available that did have the skills versus maybe a sector that reported a higher than average, saying that they don't?
I guess I didn't look at it from that perspective.
Sure. Oh no,
but
you're fine.
pulling off the top of my head, that's a good question. I would say nonprofits.
Oh, okay.
And nonprofit means like places like the city would be considered a nonprofit, so keep that in perspective. So another question I had asked, and this is probably not going to be surprising at all, is trouble backfilling your more experienced workers with qualified people. So I only had one respondent say no, and the rest had said yes. And that's going to become more of a problem, and that's a national problem where you're having an entire generation leave the workforce and you're having a new one enter in, and there's just not enough qualified people for certain positions. So my follow-up question to that for business leaders was, what can you do as a business leader in Aroostook County or a major employer to help fix that problem? One was internships that I had gotten as feedback. So, I mean, there's benefits to internships. Just gaining experience, and maybe you find a passion for that career and you want to stay in that industry, and that generates workers. Having an inclusive environment. We're at a time where we're pretty diverse in population. Business partnership. Businesses working together. Businesses working with educational institutions. New Mainers, that's part of the inclusivity of being receptive to them and their culture and what they bring to the workforce. Better promotion of jobs. So if a business is offering an internship, it would be helpful for that to be more known. Younger trade workers. I had a lot of respondents for trade workers where that's becoming a problem. Carpentry was one, plumbing, electricians. So that kind of leads back to high school, and that was some of the response that I got, is having more trade classes offered and at a younger age, and introducing trades to teens at a younger age instead of waiting until they're about ready to enter the workforce or about ready to enter college, where they're thinking more to finite where they want to be in their career. And another one, and this is a passion of mine too, is keeping youth local. So finding ways to do that. So these were the final two questions that I had. So I had asked, are businesses willing to teach and mentor young professionals? And this is more, and I had centered this more so around college students. Now looking back, it would have been better to maybe ask a wider age demographic. I had 4 answers on this question, and 2 are present on the screen because I didn't have any response to the other ones. So there was very willing, somewhat willing, open to the idea, and not willing at all. And as you can see, only 1 respondent said they would be somewhat willing. So reception to the idea, people are open to it, so that's nice. And then 100% willingness to offer internships and apprenticeships. And I knew that I was going to get this response back, but I wanted just to illustrate, if businesses are saying that they want this, and all of my respondents had said that, why is there not more opportunity being offered or showcased? So these are my possible solutions, and these aren't finite answers. This isn't going to fix all the problems. Public promotion is one. So businesses can go to Aroostook Partnerships and its Opportunities Aroostook, and you can post for free internships, jobs. I'll click on the link and I'll show you that. So if you go on the Aroostook Partnerships page, there's a section that's jobs, and then there's another section down here that is internships, students looking for hands-on learning. So this is a free source. This would be a good promotional aspect for businesses. My idea behind it is, if you as a business are willing to offer an internship, post it on this site, because then they can all be listed on here. So instead of having to look at a business and see if they're offering an internship, you could just go here and you can see all the ones available to you. Education system, I was able to meet with UMPI, so I am continuing this project after my time with the city, so I'm really grateful for that, because I have a passion for this. So UMP's working on a better system to have a better connection between them and businesses to offer students more experimental learning opportunities. So that will take time, but at least the process is starting. And then my biggest one that I've looked into a lot of research in is mentoring. And even mentoring for businesses with your current employees. So some of the findings that I've had was you have lower turnover rates, so that obviously lowers your cost in training people and having to pay people to train. You have better employee retention. Especially for the younger generation, it can help bridge that gap to soft skills, because maybe it might be more receptive to them if you're learning from someone older, that it's in a career path that you see yourself in. Another one was employee satisfaction. You feel more loyalty to your company, business, employer. And then mentoring can also help learning. So it can help people that are maybe stuck in their own path. It can help them broaden their horizon on what they want to learn. Can open them up to new ideas. That was another problem, was people not being receptive to feedback or other thoughts. So there's just a lot of benefits to mentoring, so that was my big one. Any questions?
Thank you. Go ahead, Kevin.
Did you find anything that really was like, wow, at the end of your journey through this, did you find anything that was really like, wow, I didn't expect to see that or find that, or like one thing that really stood out?
Soft skills. I will say personally for myself that I do lack some soft skills, but I didn't realize that that had been a problem. And when communicating with UMPI, they had said that this has been a problem for years, but now you're seeing it more. So that was probably a shock to me. I didn't, like time management, learning how to show up on time, dressing appropriately. I didn't realize that was as big of a problem as it was.
Sure.
Cool,
Yeah.
great,
You
nice,
did a
nice job.
wonderful job.
Nice
and
job.
You've brought some very, I think things that maybe we could surmise in some ways, but I think you brought it, to us in a way that's, the numbers are surprising, like you say, and I agree. I think everything you said is important and would be good input for us. I know with your internship with the city, and we've had another young man that interned the last couple of years with us, that we found that to be incredibly successful, and we've got some very intelligent younger people to come and work with us, and I hope it's been successful for you as has been successful for us. So we're glad that this is working, and I hope it's a model, but thank you for that. That's very good.
I will say it'd be interesting to see when we go back to talking about the question, I think, was, are businesses willing to mentor their new employees? And I'd be interested, we're involved with UMPI, to see how future employees feel about that moving into the workforce. Do they feel like 93% of these companies are willing to take on someone who might not have a strong skill set? Do they have a policy or program in place to effectively take someone from a new employee and follow them all the way through their career path? I feel like myself entering the workforce, I see those areas lacking, especially as generations start to retire. A lot of that experience sometimes isn't retained as effectively as it certainly could be. And so while some businesses everyone's willing to train, and do they have that official procedure in place to make that happen? So I'd be interested to see maybe what the workforce says about that. In addition to that, I think it's really cool to have direct input from city businesses presented to us at any point in time, and for multiple reasons. Even if we don't act on it tonight or we don't specifically address that agenda item, it certainly guides our discussions, our decisions, what we think about in goal setting, and how we direct the rest of the city employees. So thank you for the presentation.
Welcome.
Mayor, do you want to describe a little bit about what you will be doing at UMPI, like what that focus and that survey will be on?
So I have to go through a board of approval to be able to send out the survey to students, but fortunate enough I've found someone at UMPI that's willing to help me with that, and They also want to see my information, and I had shared my results from my survey with them as well. They want to move in the direction of experimental learning, so my next step is surveying students to see if they've sought out opportunity on their own, if they'd like to see more opportunity. And then another aspect of the survey would be youth retention. So if they see opportunities in the area, if they know what opportunities are here, evaluate on why they're leaving, what reasons are leaving them to leave.
Interesting.
That's good. Cool. That's a good topic.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Thank you very much for your presentation.
Welcome.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to our last item under new business tonight, which is council meeting dates. And we'll go ahead and start with the city manager.
So council, this is a simple mathematical equation. I'm supposed to submit the budget to you 90 days prior to the end of the year, December 31st. Due to our regular meeting date, that's supposed to be on October 4th. If we want to do 90 days, it'd be September 27th is when we should move that October 4th date. Move to September 27th to meet the rules of the charter that I present you a budget with 90 days prior. So simply moving it back a week.
Well, not that this matters in the general scheme of things, but on October 4th, I'm out of state. So if it was on the 27th, if that worked for everyone else, I'd be here.
Works for me.
And I won't be in October 4th, so.
Anyone have any issues or comments with moving those dates? All right, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion, or I'll make the motion to move the regularly scheduled meeting on October 4th to September 27th.
Second.
Motion by Jake and second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Thanks. That'll work.
Unanimous.
Cool.
And our next item tonight, or that concludes all our new business for tonight, and we will move right into the manager's report.
So council, I had a meeting with the University of Maine of Augusta, University of Maine at Presque, with students and a professor, Dr. Felch. They do cybersecurity for, it's a program that's got funding from Senator Collins to help municipalities protect against cyber attacks. And they started with the city of Presque. They want to use us as a model to implement to other municipalities across the state of Maine. So we've been working, I'd say now for, the past 6 or 7 months. They've done some modeling with our current existing cyber entities, and they're going to go into the part where they start training staff to prevent cyber attacks. And this is where they'll give us some toolkits that are specifically modeled for our individual departments, and educate all the members of the staff what to happen when there's a cyber attack and help prevent phishing, spam attacks, and things like that. So proud that they've selected the city of Presque to be the model for the rest of the state, and hope to share more news. But it's nice to have students that were involved. One of them goes to UMPI, and being able to help his hometown, he said he found it very rewarding, and was really surprised with what the city of Presque offers in terms of protections and also for departments. So within the next 30 days, we should have another follow-up end of August. I believe we're going to hear back from them for what they have for a design program. So I do know that there will probably be a press release for this, but it's great. It's great to see local institutions and congressional delegation agree that this is important. This cybersecurity is important for municipalities. So I'll give updates as I have them.
Thank you. Cybersecurity is certainly one of those things, like locking your door or locking your car, that you don't feel like you need it until you need it, and then it's too late. So we'll move into the announcements today. We have quite a hefty list, so bear with me. The Northern Maine Fair is August 3rd to the 6th. The AACA Vintage Tour, and what did AACA stand for again?
Antique Automobile Club of America.
There you go. The Antique Automobile Club of America Vintage Tour in 2023 goes from August 16th to the 19th. Rocking on Main Street on August 17th with the Star City Syndicate. We have the Crown of Maine Balloon Fest, which will start on August 24th. Acoustic afternoons in the garden at the Vera Este House Museum on August 26th at 2:30 p.m. So a lot going on in August. Make sure you check out the city events, and you'll definitely be able to find yourself something to do this month. The city has the following employment vacancies for a firefighter and a paramedic. And in order to apply, can they apply right online? Or
Yes, I can.
so you can apply right online, or come into the city and see one of our wonderful staff, and I'm sure they will direct you in the right to go to the right place. And we have the following vacancies for boards and committees. Assessment review, we have 2 one-year alternates. Audit committee, we have 1 4-year member. The zoning board, we have 1 3-year member and 1 1-year alternate. The planning board, we have 1 1-year alternate. Rec and parks, we have 2 1-year alternates. Downtown revitalization, we have 1 4-year member. And please see the city clerk for an application or apply online if you are interested in serving on any of those boards. It seems like the list grows every month. We would certainly appreciate anyone from the community or the surrounding area to come and offer your opinion on one of the many things we have going on here. And lastly, the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Presque Isle City Council will be held on Wednesday, September 6th, 2023 at 6 p.m. We start executive sessions now at 5 p.m. and we'll be here in the council chambers at City Hall. That concludes the announcements for tonight, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we enter executive session for 1 MRSA 405-6A to discuss personnel matters.
Motion by Kevin. Second? Second by Craig. Any further council discussion for tonight? All those in favor? And we will move into executive session. Thank you all for coming tonight, watching online, and we look forward to seeing you next month.